Welcome back, Truth Seeker. I watched the Democratic presidential debate tonight, and as expected, it was pretty disappointing. My favorite moment was when the woman who was the author started to talk about what's wrong with health in this nation. And she was making the point before she got cut off that we have a toxic diet here, and that's what nobody's talking about. And that's what brings about the healthcare crisis that we have. And true to form, none of the other politicians on the stage spoke to the point she brought up. And of course, the news media debate host again cut her off, and then they went on to some other topic. So I'm just going to pretend if I was a candidate on the stage, the points that I would make over the course of the debate. I came up with 9 ideas that I think are really important things that need to happen in this nation and in this world. And I do think the most important thing, and there's a lot of important things, don't get me wrong, but I do think the most important thing in this world is what's going on with food. And I think if we solved what was going on with food, it would automatically take care of many other problems we have. So if you're not aware, the US government subsidizes a toxic diet. Our tax dollars are spent on foods that are not good for us and which ultimately make us sick. And this is not by accident. This is by design. It's because the people who are behind this are the lobbyists that benefit. And the people who benefit are the pharmaceutical companies and the medical industry, which isn't about taking care of people, it's about profit. Everything in our society is geared towards profit, and this is problematic. We live in a world where it's profit over people. If instead of subsidizing corn and sugar and meat and alcohol, which are the things we subsidize above all, if instead we figured out ways to incentivize local agriculture and organic produce, we would solve our problems overnight. The majority of money spent on healthcare in this nation is for things that are preventable. There's so much money spent on cholesterol medicine. Cholesterol, the rates we see in this nation are caused from our toxic diet, the stress of our lifestyle, and the lack of exercise. So if the federal government stopped subsidizing these toxic foods, they'd cost more. People would not be able to afford them. That would be a natural solution in itself. Or if we took that money and subsidized, again, local organic food, problem solved overnight. You look at what happens to people in this nation, they go bankrupt at the end of their life trying to pay their medical bills. And it doesn't need to be that way. No common people are benefiting from this system. It's why we live in a class system. It's most of us and a very, very rich elite. And it's the very, very rich elite who benefit. So this all needs to be brought to an end. No more nonsense, no more subsidizing the toxic foods. Let's subsidize local organic produce. Simple and easily achievable. The next thing is education. And as someone who's a former public school teacher, I know everything that's wrong with the system. From the material that's actually taught to the people who are working in the system who really shouldn't be there. The teacher unions need to be done away with that protect the deadbeat teachers. This is a real problem. Most people in the education industry have no business being there. And what needs to be taught are not the things that are taught in this nation. We fill children's heads with mostly nonsense, teaching them false history, teaching them a food pyramid that's completely bankrupt. The things that need to be taught to children, imagine that we keep the public school structure it is, K to 12, which also doesn't need to be. But just even if it was, the first few years, say kindergarten through second grade, what those years should really be about are focusing on human values, learning about how to take care of ourselves, why it's important to treat other people with respect, why it's important to cooperate, how if we had these values as a society, it would benefit us, and realize they do this in other nations. Eastern nations, they don't have, people stealing from one another. They don't have, and I'm not saying this is true of all Eastern nations, but there are parts of the world where, theft's not a problem. There's cultural respect for one another. We don't have that here in this country because this isn't taught anywhere. It's not taught anywhere. In fact, in our school system, we're taught to compete with each other from a young age. But we need to learn values at a young age. We need to learn why it's important to take care of ourselves and our fellow man. It's common sense. And something that's hardly taught anywhere unless you come across the right teacher in your upbringing is critical thinking. Critical thinking should be the most important skill taught. And the way to teach critical thinking is actually fun. Puzzles, games, scenarios. Critical thinking. It should be the focus of our education system. If people are taught how to critically think, then they learn how to problem solve. And if you have that, essentially, for the rest of your life, you have the most important skill to navigate through all the obstacles that are going to come your way. And in addition to that, everyone should learn math. And math doesn't need to be taught in an overcomplicated way. Most people, what they need is mastery of addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. And the way the education system is structured now, children at a young age are getting bombarded with all these different math subjects. They're not having any time to master. It's this topic this week, it's on to this topic the next week. We just need to pace ourselves. Master the addition, master the subtraction, master the multiplication, division. If everyone was, very sound in those mathematical concepts, they'd be able to make wiser decisions throughout their life. You take the average person down the grocery aisle and they can't make common sense decisions on what to purchase, because they haven't mastered basic mathematics. We make school so complicated with math, learning all these concepts that very few people ever need to know about. And it's not that those subjects shouldn't be available. It's just that we need to go about, the way we teach these things entirely different. And people who really take to math, they're the ones who can pursue, things like calculus. Most people aren't ever going to need calculus. Science, science is really important. In this world, we introduce science. For the person calling in right now, I'll take calls later. I got to go through my 9 topics first, and then I'll open up the phone line. But science, science is a really important thing. But in this world, we introduce science and then, look at what goes on in this world. Real science is hidden. The scientific knowledge about the importance of diet's been out there for the last century. We bury that. So it's like we're almost teased with science. But still, people need to understand the sciences. By understanding the sciences, it opens up, worlds of interest. People find out, what they want to pursue. I'm sure a lot of you remember being a kid, you probably somewhere along the way, you did some cool science experiment. You probably have this memory from school. So, science is an important topic, and everyone deserves to have those quality learning experiences that create that stimulation in the memories and get people excited about, things they might otherwise not know about. Nutrition. Again, we have to understand nutrition. We are a society of people who have almost no knowledge about what we put in our mouth. Most people, the way they think about food is what's convenient, what tastes good, and that is just inadequate. We are what we eat. We've all heard that phrase, but most of us don't embody it. And you look around, it's a nation of sick people. It's a nation of obese people. It's a nation of people dying, from preventable disease and illness. If we focused on nutrition from a young age, it'd be a whole different ballgame. And we wouldn't need these big, expensive insurance policies and, these big, expensive government health programs. All of this can be abolished. So we spend all of our money on in this nation, healthcare and military. And really, neither of these things need to exist. Psychology also. Most people, they don't start to learn about psychology until their end of their high school career and college. Why? We should learn about ourselves as people, the way we think, the way we behave, and just simple things. A lot of people don't realize, people who have anger issues, they don't realize that when they're angry, their level of functional intelligence drops, and they make poor decisions when they're angry. And think about how many people in this world suffer from that. They get angry easily, they make poor decisions, they put themselves in ruts. So we just need to learn the simple things about ourselves so that we can overcome the hurdles that so many of us, deal with on a daily basis. We don't learn about ourselves. The things that we learn in all the years we spend in school, they're mostly not helpful to us, period. So keeping it simple, getting back to basics, utilizing our time, and really we can ultimately shrink the amount of time we're required to be in school. A lot of our lives are wasted in school. We could be making better use of our life. We could have a lot more compact and efficient education and get on with things. Think about how when most of us get out of high school, we're like, thank God, enough of that. And it doesn't need to be that way. Environment and energy. So I know that for all of my lifetime and, going back to even, early in my parents' lifetime, for at least the last half century, science has been putting it out there. We need to get off fossil fuels. We need to get onto renewable energy. We're killing ourselves. We're making the planet toxic. We're ruining the quality of life for all living things, for future generations. And look at what's going on. Every year we're increasing our use of fossil fuels. And this is insane. We now have the technology to replace fossil fuels largely. And if we incentivized getting off fossil fuels, a lot of people would be willing to make the switch. Right now, what the federal government's doing is taking away incentives for renewable energy. They're reducing the tax credits each year, and they're going to abolish the tax credits in 2 years if things don't change. For example, right now, if you put solar panels on your house, it's a 30% tax credit. So if you spent $10,000, you get a $3,000 tax credit. Next year, it's going to go down to 20%, and then 2 years after that, they're going to get rid of it altogether. Why? Why not make it 100% tax credit? Why not make it so that if you get a hybrid vehicle or an electric vehicle, which aren't perfect solutions either, you get a nice big tax credit. I remember when George W. Bush was president, he made it so that if you bought a Hummer, you got a $100,000 tax credit. If you remember, all of a sudden people were driving Hummers all over the road. That's the reason why, because you could go out and buy this $50,000 vehicle and you'd get a $100,000 tax credit for buying a gas guzzler. And they did that, of course, right after we went to war in the Middle East again, a war that had a lot to do with oil and resources. And then all of a sudden incentivizing driving a vehicle that gets 8 miles per gallon. This is insanity. And that's what the federal government policies are when you look at them across the board. They're all insane. They're all ass backwards. They're all destructive. So why not make it so that if you go out and put solar panels on your house, you at least get 100% tax credit, or why not a 200% tax credit for that? You put $10,000 worth of solar panels on your house, you get a $20,000 tax credit. Why not? They've done it before for Hummers, which doesn't make any sense. So give people a reason to make the switch from households to businesses. And, there's geothermal energy out there, there's solar, there's wind, there's other alternatives. Get people to go away from fossil fuels. Of course, we know the reason the federal government doesn't do this is because who has a stranglehold on the federal government? It is the oil industry. It is the pharmaceutical industry. It is the corporate giants, the 5 food companies that control almost our entire agricultural system. Next topic, taxes in the Fed. You know, we learn in our history books that the nation was sparked by the Boston Tea Party, which was a protest against taxes. And we learned that, you know, the founders, a lot of them wanted to get away from taxation without representation and not being taxed on your income. And look at us. We're all being taxed on our income. And most of us are just marching along with it. And why is that right? I mean, when you look at it, if you consider that you work an entire year and you look how much you pay in taxes, you pay about a quarter of your income in taxes. That means that you're working 3 months out of the year for somebody else's benefit. And for all of you who think you need to be taxed that much for your so that your roads can be nice, you're wrong. You know, nations like Saudi Arabia don't tax their people, and they have nicer roads than we do. Okay? It's a lie. Our money's being stolen. Our money's being misused. Our money's being used so that we can have, you know, Walmarts packed with Cheetos and sugary products. And so that Walmarts can be built. Do you realize that? All of you who shop at stores like Walmart, those are the biggest, you know, welfare queens in the nation. They have their stores paid for with your tax dollars. And again, these are some of the wealthiest people in the world that run these corporations. And they're not even using their own money. They're using your tax money to build their for-profit companies to get even richer. So we need to abolish the IRS. We need to stop being taxed on our income. It just needs to end. And if we are going to pay any taxes, the only taxes that we should be paying are on our consumption, but not on our food. We shouldn't be taxed when we buy food. But when we go out and we buy clothes or material items, you know, vehicles, these types of things, there can be consumption taxes on that, you know. Imagine if you weren't, think about, I mean, anyone who works, they know how much they pay in taxes. Imagine if you had all that extra income back, you'd be able to do a lot more consuming. And if the only taxes you're paying are on your consumption, well, the government's going to raise enough money. The other thing that needs to be done is the Federal Reserve needs to be abolished because the people don't have oversight over that. If we're going to have a government, government needs to be transparent and accountable to the people. The Federal Reserve is largely a private organization. If we're going to have people manage our money and our money supply, they need to be accountable to us. We need to know what they're actually doing. And why else should it be any other way? So IRS abolished, Federal Reserve abolished, in place of the Federal Reserve, a new 100% transparent, you know, organization that doesn't work in the shadows can be established. The military's budget is insane. It's at least 10 times what it needs to be. You know, we have this federal government that scares us all the time, makes us think that we need to be kept safe from all the boogeymen in the world, you know. So here's what needs to happen with the military. The budget needs to be cut by at least 90%. That'll free up a whole lot of resources and require a whole lot less tax burden from the people. And even if we had 10% of the military budget, it would probably still be too much. We spend more than the rest of the world combined right now. So 90% decrease in the military budget at least. All military spending will be 100% transparent. No more black budgets. You know. Also, no longer will the U.S. military be used as the world police. We don't need to keep building bases all over, you know, deploying our troops all over. We're not the United States of the world. We're the United States of America. Our military is supposed to be national defense. How do you defend the nation with troops all over the world? It doesn't make any sense. We've been brainwashed into going along with this. And also, new military policy. No longer will we conduct false flags and blame it on boogeymen and start needless conflicts in the world. And better yet, for all the false flags we have done, we're going to go back and investigate those. We're going to find out who the war criminals are, and they're going to be prosecuted publicly and brought to justice. That includes events such as 9/11, Oklahoma City, Boston Marathon, a lot of these mass shootings that are carried out by the government. And, even things like what we recently saw, this whole Oman, I forgot where exactly it was. This whole thing with Iran. No doubt that is the work of the United States. All of these acts are going to be brought to justice. No more of this nonsense. Let's see, what else? Prisons and law enforcement. No more for-profit prisons. I believe in freedom, but I don't think we should be having incarceration systems within our nation that are profit motivated to lock people up. If you've done any research on this, you know that these for-profit prisons are giving payola to judges to lock up and incarcerate people and give excess citizens, destroying lives so that some man can be rich for locking up another person. This is sick. So by allowing this, it allows other people to infringe on the freedoms of others. So no more for-profit prisons. That's not allowed. Also, no more federal resources will be used to build any more prisons. We already have too many. There's way too many people in the prison system. And again, these for-profit prisons are also using taxpayer dollars then to keep people in cages. What we will do, instead of spending money on building more prisons, is we'll use resources that are freed up from, decreasing the military budget by 90% to help rehabilitate the people who are in prisons. And not only that, but once they are released from prison, to help them be successful in society so they don't have to turn back to, crime and the types of things that got them locked up in the first place. By helping these people get on their feet, we're going to save money as a society and be more productive as a society rather than allocating the resources to keep people locked up in cages. So the goal will be to minimize the prison population, create more productive members of society, and use prison as a last resort for the people who are incredibly violent and show no signs that they can be, brought back into the realm of being a functional person within society. And there's truly not that many people in this world who are like that. So we could drastically reduce the prison population if it was made a goal. Again, the main problem is these people aren't getting the resources to fix their situation. And when they are released, because of their rap sheet, if you will, they can't integrate back into society. So those hurdles can be overcome. And just imagine if we have, all of a sudden local agriculture reestablished, if all of a sudden, we have this technological renewable energy revolution, there will be all these new opportunities. Back in the day, everyone was occupied because most people were farming and taking care of the local food supply. We've lost those jobs because now we have massive factory farms, huge machines. We just got to go back to basics. And no longer will we incarcerate drug addicts. Insanity. These people need treatment, not to be kept in cages. Homelessness. I'm from Seattle. Seattle is one of many cities that's plagued by a rapidly growing homeless population. And this is true in many other cities. When you have these homeless populations that accelerate, it creates all sorts of problems within the city where it's happening. Like Seattle right now, they have an epidemic of theft and crime. And why is this? It's because the majority of these homeless people are drug addicts and they have no money supply. So how do they sustain their drug fix? Well, they got to go steal something and take it down to the pawn shop and get some money. And, this goes on every single day. And if you go to Seattle, what you see police, sirens everywhere, ambulance, constantly responding to all of the incidents that are taking place. The homeless, they're fighting with each other, they're injuring themselves, they're ODing in public. This is just a massive, reactionary use of resources every day to try and, stop the chaos, if you will. Imagine if instead we took a proactive approach. We have these resources freed up. We just downsized the military budget by 90%. We're going to go into these cities that are having the epidemics. We're going to create massive, facilities. Or maybe, you know what? We don't even need to build new facilities. We'll just use the prisons because we rehabilitated the prisoners. And we're not going to incarcerate people here, but what we're going to do is we're going to turn these places, we're going to take out the cages. And now what we're going to have in these buildings is, drug treatment centers, help people get off their addiction. We're going to have job and skills training. We're going to help people deal with their mental afflictions. That's the other thing. The majority of the people that are homeless and on the streets, they're the mentally ill, if you will. They're the people that have been neglected by the system. They're the people who've lost their families. A lot of them are war veterans. Their mental illness is a product of, doing wrongdoing in the military, following orders. So anyway, we're going to treat these people because by treating these people, we can help them become productive members of society rather than people who are causing nightmares for, the people who live in the community with them. So, imagine being a store owner downtown Seattle or one of these cities where every single day you have somebody, coming in, grabbing a handful of your stuff, running outside with it, breaking windows at night to get in, because this is what's going on. And so every day we're trying to clean up the problems. We're investing resources to clean up the mess. Why not just prevent it from the beginning? Instead of, spending billions of dollars each day to buy more weapons to archive at some base, why not take care of some actual threats and problems within our society? And also, it goes back to the education thing. If we have better values, then, there's more compassion in the world and more people who are willing to help out with the homeless. When I was in my early 20s, I quit my lucrative job in real estate and decided I was going to do something that was actually beneficial for society. And I went and worked at a group home and a teen homeless shelter, tried to inspire young children, teenagers who were just a little bit younger than me at the time. And, if more people did things like that, it would make all the difference in the world. Also, I was just thinking, when was the last time you saw a president, reach out to the people of the nation, especially the nation's youth? There's not a lot of role models in this society. You think about what most young children are exposed to each day: junk food advertising, stress in classrooms that's, not that beneficial to them, violent cartoons, violent movies, violent video games. These are the things occupying the minds of the children. And their heroes are, actors, musicians, athletes, which isn't all bad. But imagine if, once a week, every Saturday, every Sunday, the nation's leader got on TV or even traveled, to a public place once a week, a city, and, occupied a stadium and said, hey, it's free to come attend, bring out the children this week. And, spoke about the importance of being a good person, helping other people, wanting to achieve, do something amazing in the world rather than just be entertained all the time, because that's what happens. We get geared towards entertainment. Entertainment becomes the end all. Entertainment becomes the goal. Isn't that, if you went out and surveyed the majority of children in this nation, don't you think you'd probably get an answer that, oh, I want to be an athlete, I want to be a musician, I want to be an actor. And it's not that those things are bad, but that's not where the mindset of the future generation should be geared. Of course, if you survey, you're going to meet some children say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be, a scientist, I want to, et cetera, et cetera. And what's sad about that is, they as young children, they probably have good intentions. They want to cure cancer. They want to, help people. But then when they grow up, because of the way the world is, by the time they're a scientist or a doctor, they're now, profit motivated. Now they're pill pushers rather than, the person curing disease. So just imagine if once a week, every week, there's a role model, a nation's leader, somebody who's in a position of power who can get out there and deliver a positive message, a positive story, a reason to, to be something great. Think about the leader of this nation we have now and the kind of values that that he teaches people. Call names, never apologize, make excuses, because that's what we have. That's what we have. And the only reason that we have a society of people where it does seem like about half the population likes it, the only reason we have a society where half the people like this is because they grew up in this society which never taught any decent values. They grew up in the society that taught indecency and greed and selfishness. And, there's just no other way to explain it. And then here's the ultimate goal: shrinking and abolishing the federal government. It needs to happen. Government is mind control. And if you get rid of the federal government, you still have 50 state governments. And if we lived in a world where we just had 50 state governments, that would mean that the people of each of those states would have a lot more power to hold their government accountable. How does somebody out here on the West Coast, feasibly hold their federal government accountable when they're over 3,000 miles away? I mean, it's almost impossible. That's why we have this tyrannical system that can't be stopped, because it's too big. It's a monster. It has too much power. It has too much authority. It has too much reach. But if you have 50 state governments, the people in those states, if their government gets out of line, a lot easier to be held accountable. And that's the way it's supposed to be. People are supposed to be able to hold their government accountable. Federal government in a nation this big, it's not possible. So there'd have to be a plan put in place to shrink the federal government. You couldn't do it all at once overnight. The federal government's massive. If you said, okay, the federal government's over, next thing you know, half the nation would be homeless. So it would have to be phased, step by step, day by day. But this is the goal. This is where we're going. Understand it, and these are the reasons why, so everyone can get on board with it. And again, if we're doing, sensible things for creating local agriculture, if we're creating a technology revolution, there's going to be other opportunities for people to, replace their federal government job. So there's even more things that need to be done, but I think these are the most important things that could be done right now at this day and age. And again, I think it all starts with the food. And then it all starts with sensible education, which we don't have. Right now we have socialization instead of education. Education's about actually empowering people and giving them real skills and knowledge that's useful, something that almost none of us ever got in the system we have now, the system that's meant to make us obedient to authority and, essentially uses and abuses us. Waste the majority of our youth. And again, obviously, we need to do something about the environment and energy. It's not hard to see that we are really destroying the planet, which doesn't need to be happening. The only reason it's happening is, again, because we live in this world of profit instead of people. And again, taxes. Way too many taxes. You know, for the person out there going, well, what about Social Security? Again, it goes back to education. Why do you need Social Security? Because you weren't able to have the skills in your lifetime to save money because you weren't a responsible person, so you needed the government to save your money for you? I mean, sadly, I know that this is the way society. I mean, most people, they get money, they just got to go burn it right away. They have no, restraint. That's why we have to educate ourselves better rather than, being made into these useful idiots that have to have our hand held our whole lives and, the government save our money for ourselves. Got to pay taxes so that we can get it back when we retire, at an age that continues to increase with time. People my age, I mean, what's the limit going to be for retirement by the time it continues to increase year by year, right? Once upon a time it was what, like 60, now it's 65, but if you work until 68, then you can get the full incentive. I mean, nearly 70 years old, when the average American's living to 70, 71 years old. So you can finally get your retirement benefit that you put in all those years when you got about 2-3 years left on your life on average. I mean, that's a joke. So, and again, all of these government programs that people need or think they need, that's just because they weren't given the right set of skills and tools from a young age. You learn how to be wise, how to make good financial decisions, how to take care of yourself. You don't need expensive government healthcare programs. You don't need the government to save your money for you. You're going to become responsible, self-reliant. See, that's what the government wants. People who are relying on the government, that's what needs to end. Military, we're not going to scare people now every day. The boogeymen are out there, men in caves. We're not going to demolish skyscrapers in New York City anymore. We're not going to blow up tankers in the middle of oceans. We're not going to defend nations that don't need to exist. You know what I'm saying, right? Obama just gave $38 billion to one of these nations at the end of his term. We're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to police the world. We're not going to have black budgets. We're not going to outspend the rest of the world combined in military. It's insanity. We're going to take care of the real problems, the real threats, which is the destruction of the environment, not taking care of ourselves, and not taking care of our fellow man. So, if anybody's out there listening, you can call in. The number is 509-731-0567. Again, 509-731-0567. If you have a problem with any of my ideas, or you have an idea that I didn't talk about that should be on here, I'm all ears. So, okay, we got somebody from Virginia. Well, Virginia, when I answered it, it hung up. I don't know if you hung up, but you're welcome to call back. So, maybe I'm doing this too late. Maybe nobody's even online. Oh, here we go. Tennessee. What's up, caller?
Hey, what's up, Zach?
Hey, man.
Hey, this is Bobby.
Yeah, what's up, Bobby?
I just thought I'd do, about the Vanderbilts. They originate in the Dutch origin. And
is there a way you can make your volume louder? You're really quiet.
Oh, okay. What about now?
That's a lot better.
Oh, the Vanderbilts are Dutch.
Oh, the Vanderbilts, okay.
Yeah, and the Netherlands, they just advanced to the quarterfinal stage of the World Cup.
Okay.
And something I know Derek would appreciate is that Netherlands sums to 393 in the Jewish cipher, and that's the eclipse code, part of the eclipse code that he talks about. Yeah, man, just I'm working nights now. I just noticed I'm on my break. Saw you on, thought I'd listen in, and just wanted to throw that out there real quick.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks,
Yep.
man. All right. That's typically how it goes when I do this. People call in and talk about something entirely different than what I'm talking about, but we'll see if anybody's got something to chime in with. For the two people who just called while that was going on, the line is back open. Let's see here. Massachusetts.
What's going on, my man?
What's up?
What do you think about the states having their own president?
The what?
Their own states having their own president.
States having their own president? Well, they do. They're governors.
What's your intake on it?
The states do have their own president. They're the governors. All right, the line's open if anybody else wants to call in. But yeah, if you weren't aware of that, that's essentially what the state president is, the governor. Caller?
Hey, what's going on, Zach?
What's up, man?
You know what we need to do? We need to first start with the 13 families. Start with them.
Sure, they need to be brought to justice.
And the Freemasons. Bad Freemasonry throughout the world. No more Freemasons. This totally end Freemasonry.
This is true.
And another thing, the education system, they need to, whatever curriculum they've been using for the past 100 years, they need to just throw that out.
Well, that's what I said. I said number two, we're getting a whole new education system, 100%.
And another thing, everybody who got student loan debt, they should erase it. I don't care what color you are, black, white, nobody should pay for college education. Education should be free.
I agree. I think what we could do is we have this K through 12 system. I think by the time you're about 7th or 8th grade, you've gotten enough of your basic schooling, and you probably know what you're interested in. So I think what should happen at that point is your final 4 or 5 years of school, you should be able to choose a path. Do you want to be an engineer? Do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a farmer? But you should be able to go on that path. And by the time you're done with essentially 12th grade, you're ready to contribute to that profession. So
it's like the 12 years from K to 12, they training you to work for them. Then they say, oh, go to college. Then when you go to college, you in debt to them. Then you ever notice when you're a freshman at college, they give you credit cards to the freshmen. That's how they exploit them. They get the kids is credit card debt. You got student loan debt, and then automatically their whole life you in debt.
That's the game. Yeah.
Pay a job or something.
We're ruled over by the banks. That's the game. Yeah.
But like the 13 families, they should pay for everything. Nobody should come out of their pocket for anything. They have enough. When they done slavery, colonialism, whatever. Look how many centuries their family has been eating and eating and eating.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
And another thing, entertainment. I wouldn't say get rid of entertainment, but something need to be done for entertainment. It's like you say, everybody's so fascinated with entertainment and sports and stuff.
Well, I think part of the reason that is because all of our own individual lives are purposely made so boring because we're just so occupied from the cradle to the grave. We have to spend so much time in education. And then as soon as we get an education, we got to work. And I mean, most of us, it's just like we're doing the daily grind. And in our small breaks each day, we're being entertained. We're living vicariously through something else. And if we had a different way of life, I think that would just naturally cure itself. So.
But you know what we got to thank for the sports entertainment. We got to thank the Romans for the sports entertainment. So.
Right. All roads lead to Rome.
It always go back to, I don't care how far we in history, always go back to Rome. What they've done, the history they have handed from us. They always go back to them when you look at it. Oh, I forgot another thing, the Vatican. The Vatican and the Pope. Got to get rid of them too.
Sure. Well, we shouldn't even have anything to do with the Vatican. They're not even in our country. But yeah, I agree.
All right, I just want to make those points with you.
All right, good points.
I agree with all nine of your points.
All right, but yeah, I like the ones you added on there. Great thoughts. Thank you.
All right, Zach.
You have a good night. Caller?
Hey, Zach, can you hear me?
Yeah, it sounds like you're driving with the window down.
I'm driving, so I wanted to make sure you can hear me properly.
Okay, I hear you, but yeah, I can hear that you're driving.
I just had a question about what you think. What's your take on healthcare, whether it's socialized? I've spoken to you before. I'm in the Navy, and I'm going to school to be a doctor. And I don't think that the healthcare system makes any sense right now. And I don't think that socialized healthcare makes any sense either.
Sure.
But what's your take? I kind of want to know your take on what would be the best way for us to have healthcare in a society where we're all free individuals.
Sure. So
and
that was
not held down to anything.
That was actually the first point I started with, is the food and health. And I said the real problem with healthcare in this nation is that we don't take care of ourselves from the beginning, and our government subsidizes the most toxic foods for us. We pay for
sure.
So we're purposeful. Our government is purposefully killing us. They're making the most toxic foods the most abundant and cheapest. And this is all done because the corporations and the pharmaceutical industries, they want it this way because they profit off our illness. So if we... I'm saying if we restructure our agricultural system and we make it about having affordable produce and local produce, and we get people eating the right way so that when they go to the store, the foods they can afford are organic, local fruits and vegetables rather than Cheetos and processed foods. And the other thing is, if we didn't subsidize these toxic foods, they'd be very expensive. So when people went to the grocery store, they'd naturally be saying, you know what I'm going to be eating this week? I'm going to be eating potatoes and carrots and cucumbers and spinach because that's what I can afford, rather than, filling up the cart with crunchy bars and cereal and all this sugary food that makes us so sick. So if you get a society of people eating right, you're not going to have all of these horrible health problems that cost so much money, that make all of this stuff so expensive in the first place. And then you're not going to have to worry and figure out how to solve this financial crisis of healthcare. So to me, it's like, just get the people eating right, make food the medicine, and the rest will sort itself out. Tonight in the Democratic debate, if you watched it, they actually had an author up there who wasn't a politician, and she started to make that point, and they cut her off, and nobody else even responded to what she said. But
that's crazy.
Yeah, so.
No, I'm only asking because going to school, like now I see a lot of ailments and illnesses that I have never seen before in my life, which makes a lot of sense. I grow my own food, and I live in San Diego, so I have great climate. So I've even grown corn in my fucking backyard. It's crazy, but I see that there's a lot of people who have ailments that are now seemingly genetic from birth. And in terms of us living as free persons individually, would you think that the people who are just happen to have genetic mutations from whatever reason, should they have to pay for their own? Should we be able to be a society within ourselves and pitch in that sense? Like, how would you see healthcare if we had an agriculturally sound foundation and everyone was able to grow their own food and had knowledge and education to do so? And it wasn't just if we rid the food as the problem, how would you see healthcare in that instance?
Sure, that's a great question, because there's still going to be people who need help, that they're born into this toxic world, so they're suffering from these problems. Like I said, we could free up a lot of resources to help out a lot of people if we drastically reduce the military budget. And
the fucking Navy just spent $8.4 million on the Officers Club at Top Gun. So I work at MCCS, I work at the original Top Gun Academy, all that shit, and the Officers Club was just renovated. $8.4 million is what they just said. We just had an opening today. $8.4 fucking million. And I'm like, whoa, holy shit. You want to start $8.4 million?
Exactly. I mean, the military just squanders money. And I said what I would do is...
any of it, by the way. We're still all broke in the military.
Exactly. It doesn't go to the people. Right. It doesn't go to the people. It goes to the weapons manufacturers. And so anyway.
Bullshit.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously there for people in need, and that's the other thing. If we restructured our society, if it wasn't about profit over people, I have a feeling that a lot of these ailments that people suffer from, they're being covered up. There's probably already treatments and cures out there, and all sorts of research that's been hidden. So if we just re-gear society, I think, I think a lot of these problems can be solved. The truth can come out. The truth can, come to light. And it also, I don't think that there's any reason for these things to have to be so expensive to be healed. I just think that's all part of the way the system's structured right now. So you get rid of these insurance companies. Yeah, you get rid of these insurance companies that jack up the costs and stuff. It probably doesn't need to be crazy expensive to treat the people who are suffering from these things either. So
it's not. They'll put down the actual costs, like when we're going to school, like they'll put down the actual cost of any type of medication and then what they're selling it for. It's just kind of like bartending, it's 54 cents for this, but we're going to sell it for $8. So it's insane to me. I'm just kind of curious, if we can go back to having community where we take care of one another, that's actual sanctuary versus going to your fucking doctor or waiting years when you have socialized medicine, or going to a doctor that's just going to keep putting you on something and not curing you.
Right. And so just imagine this too. Imagine all of a sudden things are just a lot different in the country. Imagine that, because again, I'm talking about getting rid of this federal government, because what this federal government does is it appoints people to, be the Surgeon General of the nation, who's really some corporate insider. What if instead you were appointing somebody who's like, actually cares about human health and has the knowledge and information, and instead of, covering up the truth and burying the world in lies and deception, all of a sudden there's people who are in positions who are helping, get to the bottom of matters. I mean, I think things could change.
Not getting killed for doing it. That's the whole thing.
Exactly. So all these natural medicine doctors, imagine if all of a sudden as the federal government, we promoted them. We said, you know what? Food is our medicine. Because that's what we have right now. We have this federal government that is totally corporate and totally against all things good and common sense, and they destroy, literally all that is righteous. So if you get rid of that that way of operating, I mean, just all of these things that we're suffering from, they probably really could be nearly cured overnight. So
I firmly believe that. I'm going to end on one note. My professor of biochem told me that there's nothing that grows on this earth naturally that can cure what has been made genetically in a lab. So
right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Well, you're awesome, my man. You take care. We'll be definitely speaking soon. I'm always tuning into your live stream. $5 for my sports picks and everything. So
all right, I appreciate it. All right, thanks. Yeah, you have a good night.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, but yeah, I just think, I mean, if you just change the dynamic, which is obviously a major thing to do, there's all sorts of things in place to protect the system that is. But if you could just figure out a way to overthrow it, I think a lot of the things that we're suffering from, they could be fixed very rapidly. Let's see. I think it's our man, Rich. What's up, Rich?
Hey, did I hear, is that last caller in the military? Did I hear that right?
I believe she said she was in the Navy.
Okay. I want to make a point here that kind of fired me up a little bit. And I know it's not going to happen overnight. But people in the military need to learn this work and rapidly spread it around to all the other people in the military. And I don't care if you're going to school for something, I don't care what. Go get a server job and save your money every day. Quit the military. Go to Daily Dose of Gematria, and I'll send you the top 5 videos to send to all your military friends. And we need these people to not report to work ever again. and then we can eventually, if they look up Solution to Federal Tyranny, Zach Hubbard on YouTube, we can eventually meet that goal and tell them all to fuck off.
Well, that is what needs to happen. The entire military does need to step down, but they'd have to do it all at once.
Well, imagine, say there's 1 million people in the military. If even 5,000 of them quit because they learned your work and seen how the people they worked for, that's going to be, where people are going to hear about it. You know what I mean? And it'll help it spread like wildfire. And that's what needs to happen. I know it's a long shot, but we need to all be a voice. We military people, normal people like us, we need to keep talking and talk louder. That's just my how I feel, man.
Well, you're right on. You're right on.
Military, spread this stuff to military. What the Pentagon 77th birthday video? That should make. If I was in the military and I heard that video, I would quit my job on the spot, bro.
Well, that's what makes you special. But yeah, that is absolutely what they need to do. So
if maybe we can spread that word or that thought a little bit, a couple times a week, because you have military people that listen. So maybe we can start spreading that and get people's attention. But that's all I had, brother. Enjoying the show. I just caught the end of it. I don't know what the beginning was. So. All
right. Well, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Have a good night, everyone.
All right. Take care, man.
Yep.
Let's see. Indiana. What's going on, Indiana? Indiana, can you mute your video? You're on.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
What's up? It's Jeremiah. I don't know. I sent you. So I always comment and always share your posts and stuff. But I was thinking about putting some signs out in my yard and waking everybody up to this movement.
Well, so what were your ideas for signs?
Oh, I was just going to hand paint it.
Sure, but what were you going to paint on there?
Gematria News and Zenith Alpha and Daily Dose and Bow and Arrow.
Sure, that'd be cool.
Yeah, because I went to our local preacher, like my great grandma, like my family have all been generational military, all Freemasonic, and I grew up in a Masonic family, Eastern Star, my grandma, my mom, all of them, but due to my past and I was an Eagle Scout, and I was basically programmed to join the military and everything, but I wasn't allowed in the military for reasons I don't even want to talk about. But I'm glad I wasn't. It was a blessing. Because now, my grandpa always said there's too many people in this world. I always wondered why he would always say that. Because I would always research why, you could set everybody in America in the state of Texas.
Sure.
Yeah. So I never understood why he always said that. But he was a Mason. My cousin, he's currently a Mason. He won't even talk to me no more because he knows I'm on to what they're doing.
That's too bad.
And he goes to Washington D.C. and deals with all that crap, and it's difficult to deal with sometimes because me and him are real close. But now he won't even talk to me anymore.
That's too bad. Yeah, it's too bad how. Our society is just like so many families are broken, and again, it's because from a young age we are not taught, common decency and values that all of us should have. So, yeah, we need a total revolution in the way we live and think and believe and treat each other, and something has to be done, man. So.
Yeah, I know. So beyond having, we have a big farm, and they force us to grow GMO crops. Like, if we plant our own, like if we harvest our seed, put it in our grain bins, and then try to replant it the next year, and other farmers will tell on you out here.
Well, that's because that's what Monsanto did 20 years ago. They started that incentive program for farmers to turn in other farmers, and that for people who don't know. Monsanto, when they came out with their GMO seed, what would happen is, the wind would come along and it would blow the seed from their GMO farm onto the organic farm next door. And then in that organic wheat field, the GMO Monsanto wheat would start growing. and Monsanto would send their inspectors out and find their product on somebody else's farm, and they'd say, "Oh, you stole our product," and the farmer would be like, "What?" And then they'd go to a court of law, and these paid-off judges, they would uphold the ruling for Monsanto, and these farmers would be forced to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to Monsanto for stealing their genetically modified crop, even though they really didn't. It just ended up on their farm because the wind blew the seed over there. And then these farmers get put out of business, and now Monsanto's expanding their lot. And this is what's going on in this nation, because this entire nation is a corporate monster that's serving the interests of very powerful companies. And then Monsanto's even gone out and incentivized people to rat on their neighbors. Hey, did your neighbor, did some of the Monsanto seed blow on their farm? Hey, if you rat them out, we'll give you a little incentive. You can have a leather jacket from us, and here, we'll give you a few $1,000s too. So yeah, this is what's going on in this nation. It's sick.
Yeah, we lost the farm in the 80s. We had 2 farms.
It started in the 80s. I was thinking it was the 90s, but okay, the 80s.
No. Like we were, because of when John Cougar came out with Scarecrow.
Tell me more about it.
You know that song? You know that song?
Scarecrow, I don't know.
By John Cougar?
No, I got to look it up.
Yeah, when he came out with that song, because I'm from Indiana, so John Cougar's big here.
Okay.
You know, and it was about them auctioning off farms in the 80s and early 90s because we couldn't pay for our farms. You know, it was a bad time. But you know, I was finding out about. I was working through Gematria, and then I went to the preacher because he's also a math teacher at our high school, right?
Right.
So it would be common sense that he would know about Gematria to me.
Sure.
So when I went to church and I was talking to him about Gematria, he looked across the table at a fireman that's also like a deacon or whatever of the church, and they just kind of gave each other a look, and then he always hesitated. He would never talk to me. He'd be like, well, let me know what you learned about that, or I was like, this is important. I was like, look, this is important information. All the people in this church know about this, you know. And then he just basically really just irritated me. I don't really have the attitude to deal with fake impersonating preachers, and
Sure.
I'll call them out.
Sure.
And yeah, they didn't like that shit. Like, you know, they got a protective order out there, or whatever. Anyway, because I don't, you know, and the church is right down. Actually, the pastor's house is like 4 houses down from mine. So when I stick this sign up out in the yard, oh, it's going to irritate, you know, a lot of people. And I'll send you pictures of it.
Very cool.
You know?
Yeah, I look forward to that.
I talked to Bo a lot too. I know you're saturated. Your time you're always up doing something. So, but yeah, this GMO thing, and you know, because our farm is we're blessed. It's fully paid off. But my grandma's up in years, and you know, it's all set in a trust. With my uncles are going to take over, and they're all Shriners. You know, they used to do the go-karts and all that crap. So, you know, I've been raised, you know, in a Masonic family, and I was, you know, since Boy Scouts and stuff happened to me, and when I was in Boy Scouts, and I should have sued their ass, or my mom should have, but you know, this has just been an ongoing, and I'm basically blackballed by like a lot of my family because of my views now. You know, it's just difficult to deal with. But yeah, I'll let you guys go, man. I just thought I'd give my 2 cents.
Well, I appreciate your call, and I look forward to those signs. Thank you for doing that.
Oh yeah, brother. I'm gonna hand paint it and make it look decent.
Very cool. Yeah, awesome.
All right, bro.
All right, thanks, man. You have a good night.
Love you. Bye.
All right. If anybody else wants to call in, the line is open. Again, the number is 509-731-0567. Caller?
Hey, Zach. What's going on, man? Gary again.
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, man. So, I'm not going to be long. I'm pretty tired of this right now, but yeah, great points as always, man. There's some good points there. I think the biggest thing here is I think where it's got to start at is helping people individually with this knowledge that you've exposed. We need to, like you said, educate people on an individual level. I think it's going to be real hard to make big changes against the federal government. You know, like you said, we got to take it step by step, day by day. You To Rich's point about the military, I was in the Navy, and you're not going to change many people's minds in the military. You know, most of those people come from poor backgrounds. You know, they're all about the military. I've seen how it is. It'd be hard. You could show everybody the proof. You know, they people in the military ain't going to change.
Sure, they're some of the most indoctrinated people in our society. So yeah, I hear you.
That's the thing. You know, it's hard to convince people in civilian life, let alone the military. So I think there's only a select few people in this world that can understand and appreciate the knowledge you put out, can understand and appreciate the golden rule, treat other people respect, can understand and appreciate taking care of yourself. Some people, you know, you can't help or fix. So, you know, I think, like you said, I agree with you. I'm just calling to tell you I agree with you, and we got to take it.
Well, sure. And what you're saying is true, but it's because people are set in their ways because they weren't taught right from the beginning. So that's why the whole system has to be I mean, it's a mountain to climb, but I mean, if values were taught different from a young age, then we wouldn't have the obstacles. It's that people are raised the wrong way, and they're given all these wrong values from the beginning, which is what they then go on to value. And that's why, I mean, it really does start with the youth. So yeah, I hear you though, man.
I agree. I was looking at something the other day. I was reading online about, for example, Europe and their schools, like their kids, for example. So like here in America, our kids go to school 5 days a week, you know, all day in the classroom. They get like 30 minutes of recess or whatever. Well, the kids in Europe, they're learning valuable life lessons, you know, at their youth. And then they get to go out for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, be outside, play outside, explore, you know, the outdoors, have fun.
Right.
Here in America, youth, they're eating the shitty food,
right,
lunches, they're stuck inside, and it's sad, you know. And then you start moving up to middle school. You start learning about more bullshit, and high school starts getting pressure. You got to go to college. And then go to college to be $50,000 to $100,000 debt with a job that you might not even like 4 years from then or 8 years.
Exactly.
It's sad.
Exactly.
You know, so it's depressing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you were on at the beginning, but I was talking about it. I was saying the first 3 years of school, say kindergarten through second grade, it should be about learning, you know, good values for society, taking care of yourself, why it's important to take care of other people, learning about the natural world. Yeah, just the basic fundamentals. If that was the first 3 years of our focus and our education, it'd be an entirely different world. You don't get that anywhere.
Yeah. So. Absolutely, yeah. Right when you started, I was watching, and I remember you made that comment. And you know, some people say, "Dude, you know, you know, it's the parents' responsibility." Of course, it's the parents' responsibility to raise their kids right. But you got to think, these kids are at school. You know, we're at school all day. You know, every day, all day. That's where a lot of their lives are at.
Right. Most parents are not raising their children. Most parents are busy working, and their children's in school all day, and the time that they're around their child is getting them ready to go to school in the morning, making them a meal, putting them to bed. Yeah, I mean, right.
Kids don't even have time with their parents anymore. Like I grew up with both my parents. My parents are together. Growing up, we did a lot. My parents and I, my little brother, he's 22 now. We grew up doing stuff together because there was a time, like, it's not like that, we're talking 10, 15 years ago, but where you didn't need to have two jobs. Parents raising kids now, you know, they have 2 or 3 jobs. Both parents are working. They're not around their kids. They're not able to focus on their kids' education. They're not able to focus on their kids' you know, social life. Kids are so infatuated in iPads and their phones. Even, you know, parents are like, here, watch some YouTube, watch some bullshit. And I think that's the problem, you know, and it's like, it's sad. It's sad. The future generation has been screwed. Like you were saying earlier, they look up to... We've
all been screwed. Yeah, they're going to get screwed even worse, but I mean, all of us have been screwed. I mean, everyone's been getting screwed for the last century, essentially since the Industrial Revolution. So,
yeah,
Yeah.
And it's getting worse. So like you said, I don't know what to do. And it makes me depressed, because it's like, I don't know. If I had millions of dollars, at least I think in this standpoint, if I had millions of dollars, I would try and donate to this cause. I would, we need someone that has a good head on their shoulders, with money, with some power. They have to always have a good head on their shoulders to contribute to the cause, to get out this knowledge, get out the knowledge of taking care of yourself, because people, they're set in their ways. Like you said, they're lethargic. They want to be entertained, and
they're programmed.
It's just, they're programmed, and they're programmed because these companies with money pump out these shitty foods. Companies with money pump out these shitty TV shows and these rappers and movies and shit like that. So it's like, it's hard to make a difference without a bunch of money, and it's like, how do we change it? And I think it starts with the individual, obviously, and then going from there. But it's sad, and I who knows what the hell's going to happen? It's tough,
right? Indeed.
So, yeah. I again appreciate your work, Zach. I gave you something to watch.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you, man. Keep your head up.
Yes, sir. You as well. Appreciate your work. You take care.
All right. Yeah. Have a good night, man. Thanks for calling. Yeah, I mean, it's a mountain that we got to climb, but it has to be climbed. And I swear to God, if we could get on TV, it'd make a big difference. So, caller.
Hey, man, how's it going tonight?
It's going all right. How are you?
I'm good. So I was doing a little work. Glad to come on this live feed. I enjoy the live feed a lot. So I was just going to call and say a few things. One is like, I don't know if we even need a presidency. It's like, it seems like it's always been a scripted thing just to keep people in kind of
in the box.
Brainwashed mindset.
Yeah, absolutely.
Real and authentic.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. I don't think the government is authentic one bit.
Nope. Yeah, I agree, man.
Okay. Can you hear me all right?
It sounds like you're driving. Are you driving?
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
That's way better.
Okay. So I was driving my car using the Bluetooth. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's a lot of good topics tonight. Everybody's got, but I just feel like, what's the point of even watching the presidency, Does he ever really do anything? It's just that they go around and do these speeches and, they don't really do anything.
Right. And bring up this.
I've been observing this since the Reagan days. Like, you don't really do anything.
Right.
You just go around on tour for 4 or 8 years.
Get people to cheer for him. Chant USA. Yeah, exactly. I get sick of watching it too, because I mean, they just bring up the same things every time. Everybody mentions Al Qaeda and terrorism, and when the towers came down, and there's nobody on the stage who speaks the truth, and the audience cheers. It's just like, it's just sickening.
I know.
So
it's sickening because like Obama said they're going to pull all the troops and bring them home, and what? Well, he's out of office after 8 years, and they're still over there.
Well, so I mean,
other countries.
Think about that. When Obama became president, the Democrats had the executive branch, they had the Senate, the House, and for about 8 years prior to that, they'd campaigned on ending the wars and bringing home the troops. And then they had every branch of government except for the Supreme Court, and they increased the amount of troops over there. So it's just like, I mean, how can people not see how bankrupt the system is? Neither party stands for anything. They do the same song and dance, and everyone falls for it. So
yeah, typically, in my life, I like to look up to older people, get their views on things, and learn a lot of stuff from them. But there's complete morons and retards. I just call them old number 30 because idiots 30, retard 30, moron 30, all in the reduced cipher.
Oh, that's funny.
Number 30's everywhere.
Oh, that's funny.
Everywhere.
Huh. That's
among many other words that are offensive towards others, that's number 30.
I'd never realized that
So-
before. That's interesting.
Yeah, it must be about a dozen words. That are offensive to other people. You call them a name, and it adds up to 30.
Huh. That's strange.
So anyway, I've just been observing since like the Reagan days when I was a kid, and it's just they have the same song and dance. They promise this, say that, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. You ain't gonna do shit. You're gonna do what you're fucking told is what you're gonna do.
Right. We're just gonna get sold out. What you can always count on is getting sold out more and more. So yeah,
and the retards are gonna fall for this shit again this time around. They're just so stupid. It's just like going back to the food topic. I distribute Dave's Killer Bread.
Oh, okay.
And I'm self-employed, and that's a non-GMO product.
Right.
And it's organic product, and people love it, and I'm glad they love it. It is a pretty good product. And
So wait a minute,
product.
you're self-employed.
Like
you're self-employed distributing that bread.
Yeah, I basically own a territory.
Okay.
So I have the rights to distribute within a territory.
Did you reach out to that company and agree to be a distributor for them? Is that how that worked out?
Well, in Washington State, they were planning on selling off all the routes. Like all the territories in the nation are pretty much independently sold off. They just feel like that it's a better deal for them. Plus, they're not very good at keeping up their end of the deal with the grocery stores. So I'm in the grocery stores a lot throughout the week. Probably 5 days a week, and they're just the goyim are everywhere. They're just complete morons everywhere. So,
right.
Gets a little frustrating, but I do appreciate the value they bring with the product, and I think it's a pretty good company. They're okay. I mean, but the product is what people love, and that's a pretty good.
Sure. And
I'm pretty happy about that.
Sure.
So,
I don't buy bread a lot, but when I do get bread, I do get that brand. And I mean, it costs $1 more than maybe even $2 more than the rest of the loaves on the shelf, but it's a way higher quality product. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it is the premium. It is the premium product on the market. So there are a lot of people in my area that can afford it. And when it goes on sale, it really blows through.
Well, realistically, everyone who eats bread can afford it. Because I mean, if you look at what most people do, that they won't buy that. They'll save the $2, but then you look at their shopping cart and what's in there that they spent that extra $2 on, some ding dongs and some candy bars. I'm always amazed when I go to the grocery store. I always just look at everyone around me. It just never fails. Just everybody's cart is just full of crap, and I'm just like, God, look at what they spend their money on. I mean, all this poison they're putting in their body. So it's a society of people that are addicted to junk food. And yeah, that's what they say. They'll say, oh, I can't spend that. That bread's too expensive for me. I'm like, well, just put the ding dongs back and the Twinkies and spend a little bit more on your bread. So
I agree with that,
Yeah.
Or head over to the produce section and find the best quality stuff. As humans, we don't need a full shopping cart every week. You just need a little bit of food. You don't need that much food.
Exactly. Most people are overeating, right? Yeah, exactly. Most people are overeating and spending a whole bunch on a bunch of junk they don't need to put in their mouths. So 100%.
Yeah, I agree. And most of these grocery stores, they make most of their money off the pharmacy anyway. But the groceries they don't make that much off of, so they're selling the drugs and the alcohol now, and that's where they make a fortune. And then people are addicted to the sugar too.
Well, and think about it. Think about it. The reason they're back there getting those drugs is because of the stuff that they're buying that's on the shelves. So that's the system. That's the system right there.
Yeah. One thing I'm proud of as well is I've got one of those alkaline water machines. Really kind of expensive, but I just make my alkaline water and drink that every day. I don't fool around with that bottled water or the tap water. Those are at the wrong pH levels for your body. So your body needs to be slightly acidic to fight, or slightly alkaline to fight off all these, diseases that people come up with.
Right.
Then they run to the pharmacy, and then it causes 10 more problems. It's just sick.
Right. Yeah.
So, I think it's important people understand they need to keep their body alkaline, to prevent a lot of these diseases, and stay away from that. Whenever I go by the pharmacy, I see a line of people, and I just call it the line of bondage and death.
Right. Yeah.
But But I'm having a hard time trying to explain a lot of the gematria or some other topics to people, even my friends or whoever, and it's like they're just happy with the system because they're benefiting, but they don't care about their fellow man. Or I have a CPA friend who's my CPA, and he's making great money he's been doing this a long time, and I'm telling him, this is me being self-employed. They're raping me. They're taking too high of a percentage, and you just think of what they're doing to all the other small businesses around.
Right.
And they're just banking on they don't bring back any benefit. There's nothing that we're benefiting from the national government. There's nothing. I'm not getting anything from them.
Right.
Nor do I want anything from them, but nothing that they do benefits me. So, or anybody else.
Right.
It's probably like I'm paying for ding dongs, ho hos, and Twinkies for about 10 families every quarter.
Right.
So who knows what they're spending the money on? I'd like to know that. I thought there was supposed to be no taxation without representation, but
Indeed. Yeah.
So I'm trying to explain to him. I think this is a criminal system, and his response is, "Well, it's provided well for me." It's like, well, you're not the only one, my friend. You're not the only one around. It's not just about you. It's about all of us. And people don't realize that they're in slavery. They're under slavery. They think they're free because they're told through the media that they're free, which is the biggest crock of shit. You're free to do what you're told, pay your taxes, and you're free to don't do what you're told. Don't do what you're told not to do. That's it. So,
That's right.
I don't know. I'm just so sick of it. You try to talk to people, and they're just complete morons. So I don't know what. They don't care. They don't care about this. They don't care about being free.
Are you in the Seattle area? Are you in the Seattle? Are you in the Seattle area?
What?
Are you in the Seattle area?
Yeah, I'm north of Seattle in the Everett area.
Okay, your CPA friend. How's he think the system's doing for all the homeless people in the Seattle area and in Everett?
Yeah, I didn't ask him about that part, but part of his response is somewhat true. Decision making, people making better decisions, which I agree with. People do need to make better decisions for themselves, but at the same time, why does the government need a third of my money? That I'm out here working hard for, and they're just sitting at a desk doing nothing. I don't know what they're doing, but
sure. But I mean,
what do we need that?
In the Seattle area, people should see that the system's not working. I mean, the amount of homeless people is insane. I mean, you drive around Seattle, it's all, it's tent city everywhere. So, yeah, I mean, it is too bad that people just look at their own position and don't think about others. But there's signs everywhere that the system's failed, and there's definitely a lot more people suffering in this system than benefiting. So. When you made that,
sometimes I'm out in the city at night, doing my delivery job, delivering my bread to the grocery stores before all the people get out there and get my way. So, you got meth addicts walking all over the place, or heroin addicts, they're just acting bizarre behavior. They're yelling at nothing and, dragging one leg like a zombie. It's like, gosh, it is a sad state. So
it is.
I live further out in the woods, but
it is.
I'll stay away from these people.
I just went down to Portland, and I'd never seen anything like this before. At an overpass, there's always a homeless person growing up, on the corner where all the traffic's getting onto the freeway. But I could not believe it the last time I was down in Portland. There wasn't just one person at the corner. It was a line of people all the way down the ramp because the traffic gets backed up there. I was like, look at this. There's like literally 30 homeless people begging on this on-ramp to the freeway. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. And I was like, this is just signs of the times. I mean, normally there's one person on the corner. That's bad enough. But right now you have 30 people all with their signs up in a line down this entire ramp. So, yeah, I mean, and then meanwhile on cable television.
These homeless people, a lot of times, they'll come up and ask me for some money. And I know either they want drugs or they really are in trouble. Usually it's probably because they want more drugs or alcohol or something. But I'll offer them up some bread, and if they don't take it, then I know that they're just seeking out.
And a lot of times they don't want food, right?
If they do take it, then good. Here's a healthy product for you.
Sure.
Give them
But
I can't sell it anymore because it's too old, but, you know, it's still good for several weeks.
Right. But again, it's signs of the times. While the TV's reporting how great the economy is, it's like, I've never seen so many homeless people in my life. Obviously, the economy's not great. So it's great. It's great for the...
Go ahead.
I'm saying it's great for the super rich. The super rich have never been more rich. There's never been more wealth disparity. But the common person's not doing better. So again, that they always try to make it seem like, you know, the economy's never been better, when in reality, half a century ago, one adult worked and made plenty of money to support the whole family and pay for the college education and everything. So things are exponentially worse for the common people than they were 50 years ago.
Yeah, and I have a friend who works for Food Lifeline. You know, that's a company of nonprofit that helps get food to food banks, you know, which is a great service. And he said most of the people that go there and try to get some food is people with mortgages. They, you know, spend so much on their mortgages because the housing is so much that, you know, they can't afford to buy food, so they just go to the food bank and get it.
Right. Yeah. Things are not great. So things are great for the banks.
Yeah, things are great for the bank, but, you know, yeah, and then, you know, I have a real estate friend who, you know, he's doing real well at real estate now, but I'm like, hey, you know, it can only go so high. People can only afford so much. What are you going to do? Start giving out 50-year loans, you know?
Sure.
Nobody sits in their house for 30 years anyway, you know?
Sure.
So the real estate's always going to be in control of the banks, you know? Until you pay it off, you don't own shit, you know?
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then, you know, I try to tell them, you know, like, you don't own your land either. You know, you're renting it in the form of a property tax, which, you know, then the teachers around here want more money, but they're already taking 60% of the
That's right.
property tax.
Even if your house is all the way paid off, yeah,
they're just turning out more retards, you know. So
exactly. All right, man. Yeah, you're right on. I appreciate it. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, man. Have a great night. Thanks, you.
All right. Yeah, you take care. Yeah, that's the thing. Even if you own your home, you don't really own it, right? Because you're always paying property taxes. It's like my house is all the way paid off, but still got to pay $30-some hundred in property taxes every year. And it's like, what am I paying that for? Well, what's this community doing for me? What's it doing for anybody? Caller? Caller?
Hey, Zach.
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, man, what do you think about all these UFO headlines lately, man?
Yeah, I've noticed that, the upsurge in UFO headlines. You know, it's like it seems like every five or so years, or maybe every 3 years, there's an upsurge all of a sudden in UFO headlines. It's just like one of those, you know, systemic. It's just like part of our culture, and every now and then they got to bring it back up to keep it there. Part of the cultural programming. If you go back and look at all the original UFO stories that started the whole UFO phenomenon, they're all stories that are heavily coded with the number 47. And I'm sure if you follow my work, you know all about that. But yeah, I just realized that there'll always be an abundance of UFO stories.
Simulation theory, UFO. You know, it's like a narrative. You know, it's like Project Bluebeam. I think of War of the Worlds. You know what I mean? I don't know. Just something to think about, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. But if it's in the media, it's just all part of the programming. So.
Exactly. All right, man.
All right, appreciate it. All right, thanks. Have a good night. Caller?
Yeah. It's in the media. It's all part of the programming.
Caller, can you mute the video?
All right, appreciate it. All right, thanks. Have a good night.
Caller, you got to mute the video. You're on.
Good deal. How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for calling in.
No problem. Got a lot of interesting comments and questions. Couple points I want to make. All the things that you bring out are very valid points, but you got to realize that our government is subject to state capture, and that happened more than 70 years ago. You got to go back to 1933, and look what happened right then. So they took the name, they took the copyrighted name of the country, and they turned it to a corporation. That's the government, that is. So The United States is essentially a corporate government.
Of course it is.
Yep. And when you go into that court and you see that gold fringe flag, that's the flag of no nation. That's the flag of admiralty. It's an admiralty jurisdiction. So a lot of Americans don't know that. So, but there is a remedy. There's a lot of remedies in that. And you're right. You don't really own your house. You don't have a loyal title to it. So, but you can get a loyal title to it. Okay. So even though the system is rigged against you in terms of ignorance, there are remedies within it. For example, your taxes, the IRS, USC Title Code 26, I believe. That's the IRS code. You can't elect to take revocation of election. I'll let your informed audience find out what that is. So there are remedies within the system. You have to know how to weave in and out of the matrix, so to speak.
Sure, but rather than making so you have to play all these games and jump through hoops, it's just like there needs to be a leadership that comes about and just ends it. Abolishes the IRS. Now people don't live under the
I'm a little lower than you, and I used to, when I said, I got so angry at people not telling me how this thing worked, and then it took me 20 years to put this whole thing together, and I finally did, and it's like being your own Morpheus and Neo at the same time. But when you finally do, you kind of go to peace. Not that you like the system, but you realize why it's there. But you also realize that you don't have to split your spleen every time you see some injustice. Okay. No one tells you. No one has an interest to tell you exactly how it works. I have not found one person to sit you down and say, "Hey, this is the real deal." I had to put it all together myself.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying. So yeah, if you figure out the tricks to escape, being under the tyranny of the IRS, that's great. But the system still exists, and people are still getting exploited by it. So it's either you have to educate all the people how to do it, or you have to figure out a way to end this system because it's what's bringing about, the mass suffering. So I've heard before from other people that there's ways to do this. I don't know how to personally achieve it.
You can also contract out of it.
Well, that's what people say.
You can contract out of it. Yes, you can. Okay, that's what I mean. Go to peace. Contract out of it.
So people will always call in and give these.
Lawfully contract out of it.
Okay, so people will often call in and say that they've done this and achieved this, but they never explain how to do it.
Okay, look up the term. I can't go through all of it. It's very involved. It's called revocation of election. Okay?
Okay.
It's a legal process. And it's lawful for United States citizens to do it. Okay?
Okay, so this is what everybody needs to do.
So that's one remedy. Okay? But get some factual information on it. Don't come across the first thing. Compare, contrast, go deep. Okay? And get some factual information on it. So, there's other things to do, but there's a lot of different things. So it's just not, people think the system works, why it works, find out how your government was taken over, who took it over, why they took it over, when they took it over. Nobody talks about that. This is your show, okay? So I'm not going to butt in and court dump what I know. But these are the questions you have to ask yourself. And when you see that, you can find out, okay, is this system good for me, or do I need to go to another system? Do I need to go to my own? Do I need to do something in between? So,
sure. Well, we know the answers to the question. No, the system's not good, and there needs to be a better system. Or there just needs to not be a system, period. So
we are not living under the constitutional republic as it was established. That much is clear. Okay? It's more like a military dictatorship, and Probably it is.
But even from the beginning, it was that. I mean, it always has been. It's just gotten worse. So from the beginning, they set up the right to tax. They set up the right to make war. You know, they set up the right to be the authority over the people. So, you know, the way it was established from the beginning wasn't good. Again, I always point out the people who lived here before, you know, the Europeans came and set up this government, you know, they were the native people and they lived in tribes and they lived with nature, and things were obviously a lot better. Things were a lot more free. Things were a lot more in tune with nature. So government is ultimately the problem. And that's what needs to be squashed. So I do appreciate the call and the input, but I do wish there was some more direction to it, because you're not the first person who's called in. But what I just noticed is everybody who calls in and offers this kind of advice, they can't specify, and they make it sound like it's really complicated. So
well, it's not complicated, and I'll be very short. I'll just say, again, the process is called revocation of election. It is legal, okay? I'm not offering any, I have to do some disclaimers, so I'm not offering any legal advice, okay? I'm not an attorney or a lawyer, okay? But, and this is your show, all right? So I'm not here to impart my wisdom and know-how. I'm here to make a comment. It's a big difference, okay? So it's not, you know, I could take a whole half an hour, but I'm not going to do that. This is your show, okay?
All right. Well, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for calling in and offering the comment and the term for people to look up. So I'll do some more research on it too. Revocation of election. All right, man. You have a good night.
All right. Take care.
Yeah, I know it has something to do with escaping your legal name, because that's how they hold authority over you. But anyhow, let's go out to the caller. How are you?
Hey there. I have a great idea. I think I know how to get you some TV time.
Okay.
I think you go at it that Albert Pike was a Confederate, and we got to take down his statue.
So go rally in D.C. by the...
and you protest, and you make a big deal out of it, and through that you expose the Gematria once you have the press.
Sure, that'd be real easy to do next to that statue with the morals and dogma. Yeah,
exactly. Plus,
well,
they're going to go defend it, and yet all these politicians are the ones, you know, going for replacing the Confederates and the flag and everything else.
That was actually part of my idea with the DC trip. So I plan to do something like that when I go back there this September. But yeah, I'm right with you. That is a great idea.
I was looking at the hypocrisy of some of the candidates over the last 2 nights who have said that they don't want to take farmer money, or they don't want to take political action committee money. But the ironic thing is that the way that they get to advance in the debates and to even have been on that stage is based on how much financial contributions they've raised.
Right.
So it's such a stupid, you know, way of having our whole process be based on how much money can you go raise and then just go waste on advertising and signs, polluting our roadways and everything else. It's just an absolute waste of everybody's money.
Indeed.
Another little revelation I had tonight is possibly, could it be that both you and Marty Leeds are both correct? That he is showing the septenary you know what I'm saying,
right.
To be the God's language, and what you're showing is how the Masons are using Gematria to brainwash us, etc., to rule the narrative. And maybe what they've done is to take the biblical septenary stage and, you know, translate and use it in a different way.
Well, that's
so maybe the two both are doing.
Let me just chime in real quick. So, what the cipher that Marty Leeds teaches is legitimate, and I've always acknowledged that. The problem with Marty Leeds is he says that's the only cipher, which is just idiotic. And I also know that Marty Leeds is a loser because he.
So that means he's covering up to say that no, they're not
exactly.
Using that code.
He's a goon, and he's a Mason himself. I have no doubt about it. And
okay.
And yeah, I mean, the guy's just a total loser. Trust me. He trolls me. He has my number. He won't debate. He you know, he talks bad about me in his own live streams. He tells people to stay away from ordinal, which is just the alphabetic order. It's just, he's just, Yeah, he's a.
And he's a flat earther.
Well, and he doesn't even really actually believe in it. The reason he did that was to get some subscribers. Yeah.
Okay.
Off the record,
Right,
he doesn't even. Yeah, he doesn't even believe in it off the record. For people out there who support Marty Leeds because of the flat Earth, he only did it because he saw that he could get an audience that way. Trust me, I know because I talked to him. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
All right. Thanks.
Take care. Good night.
All right. Take care. Yeah. Ultimate fraud. So. Yeah. I wish I recorded my private conversation with Adam Green too. He laughed about how he pretends to be a Christian because it gets him followers. A lot of goons out here who pretend to be what they're not. So I'm always super transparent. If anybody else wants to call in, here we got a caller. Allentown. We just had a shooting by the numbers there. What's up, Allentown?
Yo, Zach.
Yo.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I do.
All right. Hey, Hubbard. I hate to be off topic and what. I mean, is it okay if I run down on something that happened in my area? I think it might be significant as to upcoming events.
Sure.
Okay. Bethlehem, PA. When I heard about it, I thought the situation was odd, but there was a church arson there, and I don't know if the guy was actually like a homeless, mentally ill person like they claimed in the newspaper, or if he was paid or played. I'm not sure what happened there, but that's who they pinned it on. All you'd have to see is Bethlehem, PA church arson. You know, you enter that into your Google there and look for the Festered article. Go through the pictures there, look at what the black cop and the white cop are doing. The one guy can't keep a straight face. And, okay, so Bethlehem, PA, church arson, all caps, 223 English ordinal, 213 Jewish ordinal, 311 KFW, 222 LCH Cabal. That's a lot of shit up. So, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, but something weird happened when I was in town, so I think, I don't know anything about VPNs or anything, man. I'm not really a tech guy. I didn't really cover my tracks, and Google pretty much owns my old system, so I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to mess around with that, but, yeah, I just want you guys to be aware of that situation there. I'm not really sure what happened to the guy or if he was even legit himself, but I don't know, man. I wanted to say thank you for the things that you've been doing. I mean, this is huge. I mean, I got sucked back into this thing a couple of years ago. I mean, I got sick of all the Alex Jones BS, and then I kind of hold a part of the code, and I heard about you guys. I was like, man, this is the realest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like this. Like, it's intense. And I'm learning a lot from you guys. Like, even the comment section, like, you guys have been great. I was thinking maybe you could do a Happy 8/11 t-shirt social media campaign, maybe photobomb some people before it goes up, but maybe something that could be done to spread awareness. I'm sorry, haven't really been sleeping lately, so I'm a little scattered there.
It's okay, I'm following you, man. Yeah, about August 11th, I mean, I don't want to create any unnecessary fear or speculation. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of things pointing to that date. But if something does go down August 11th, there's going to be a lot of people who are clued in advance. And I think the word will spread fast about what really went down and how it was all foreshadowed. So,
I mean, I do talk to people about it, but I can see it as maybe like a potentially building a false lead day when maybe something really good happens, like positive. I'm like, when's that? Yeah. But I mean, just with everything that happened, I mean, 415 Notre Dame and that other temple go down. I mean, 415, you have that, and that's 118 days away from 8/11. I mean, that's just too. I don't do coincidence anymore. I've seen too much. Right. And you got 514 Howard Stern comes again.
Don't forget the two mosque shootings. The two mosque shootings on the day we said to look out for in advance in the 8011 area code. Again, Tisha bombs about the two temples. You got two mosque shootings with the 8011 in the code, not too far off from the date 8/11. So.
Whoa.
Yeah. So.
What is that the area code for?
It's where look up the addresses of the two mosques that were shot up in New Zealand. And then right after that, there was a story out of the UK about a retaliatory attack at 1:18 p.m. local. Somebody attacked with a hammer. So all those stories just days apart.
I think there's just too much for it not to be. Oh man, this is back. I mean, thanks guys, just like so much. I mean, this really has given me a bit of purpose. Like I was lost for a long time.
Well, keep your head up, man. All the people who are awake, I mean, they're all valuable because there's not enough. So, yeah, it's easy to get down, but you just got to keep fighting.
I really don't know what to say. I don't want to take up any more of your guys' time. It's just I try to reach out to you guys' comment section and stuff, and I can't even post it. It just wiped me off right away.
You can't leave a comment right now?
No, I mean, I was in the live chat. Yeah, I was using a different machine, but when I try and post to you guys from the other machines that I use, they won't even show up in your guys' videos, like in your comment section. They just wipe me right away.
Yeah, they're doing that to a lot of people. It's all the different ways they censor, so.
Yeah, it's like I'll go in your comment section, I'll see like 70 comments, and there's only like maybe 50 on the board. I'm like, what happened to those other people? They have to be saying something relevant. Right. Collective intelligence, I think that scares the hell out of these people, and I love it.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, I really appreciate the call and the heads up. You have a good night.
All right, man. Hang in there.
All right, take care. All right, I'll hang on here for a little bit. It's getting late out here. Somebody just tried to call in from Hawaii. Wish I was in Hawaii. It'd be hours earlier and more beautiful. But if you want to call back Hawaii, the line's open. Again, for anybody who wants to call in, the number is 509-731-0567. Okay, now, if you got here late, we went over 9 things that really need to happen in this nation. Caller?
Brother Zach.
What's
Thanks
up?
for the shout out, man.
Yeah, what's up?
Glad I could catch you, man, because yeah, the time difference, like you just said, it's always like when you're live streaming, I'm usually at work and stuff, so I can never catch you live, but I'm still watching your videos, contributing on Patreon, but great stream as usual. I just wanted to say, I don't know if I commented this before, but I was doing like some research into my own birthday, which was 33 years ago, 1986, and in that year, the UN, for some random reason, they designated that year as the year of peace, and they've never done that like any other year. So that was 33 years ago, and then this is 2019.
Huh.
So like it's like order out of chaos, 3319. So this is probably the year of not peace, but the opposite.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Another thing, I was like driving today, and I was thinking like about the Al-Aqsa Mosque and all that stuff, and for some reason, like I just don't understand how the Jews have allowed the Muslims to have control of the foundation rock or whatever that they think is like the center of the universe or the center of the world, but supposedly that's in Al-Aqsa Mosque, and they've been very outspoken about taking it back from the Muslims. But I think that the Muslims are also, they play a role. I mean, I think you said this before, but they're also going to play a part. Like I'm pretty sure there's Muslims inside their religion or whatever that are aware of this plan, and they're working with the Israelis. And I do believe you're absolutely 100% right about they're going to blow up or do something to Al-Aqsa Mosque. But yeah, sorry, that didn't really flow as well as that.
Well, I know what you're saying.
One more thing, man.
If you've been paying attention to the headlines this year, Israel has cracked down and they've limited access and they've gated the area off. So that the time's coming, whether it's August 11th or sometime after, it's not too far away that there's going to be some major action there. So again, think about it. Right now, there is a coin that's on sale to raise money to construct the third temple, and that's exactly where they want to build it. You have Donald Trump's head on one side of the coin with King Cyrus and the third temple on the other. So it's coming.
Yeah, it is. And they named parts of the Golan Heights after him.
Isn't it? Yeah, and exactly. You know, you got all these people out here who think Donald Trump's fighting the New World Order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, and I'm going to be in Washington in like a month. My sister lives in Olympia. You're free, man. I'd love to buy you lunch or something and get you a coffee. But
All right. Well, I'm deep from there now. I'm not in the Seattle area anymore. I'm in Washington State, but I'm way east now. So.
Oh, for real?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, shit. Well, I'm going to be going to Virginia, too. That's where my mom is. So.
Okay. Well,
I'll be spreading the word. But anyways, man, thanks for letting me ramble.
all right. Appreciate it, man. You have a good night.
You too.
All right. Take care. I'm getting the signal that I need to get off. So if anybody wants to call in, I'll take one more call, and then we'll call it a night. But that number is 509-731-0567. If anyone wants to be the last caller. And real quick, I'll check out the chat too, because I have not looked at the chat. Let's see here. There it is. Who's fighting the NWO? Well, certainly not enough people. No one in your government, that's for sure. Caller?
Hello, Zach. Hey, I have some information on something. I was wondering if you might have time. I could run it by you.
I got time.
I was wondering if you know anything about the star Sirius.
The dog star?
Right.
Somebody pointed out that it's number 23 in light of what I showed last night about Dog the Bounty Hunter and the loss of his daughter and wife.
That's very interesting. Well, I came across a YouTube video talking about how it represents the blazing star of Freemasonry. And I was looking through your book and I didn't see anything on it. And there's an astrological alignment with the Washington Monument that correlates to July 4th. Also, there's a lot of stuff with Sirius. If you just research that, you'll go down the rabbit hole. And also, the constellation associated with Sirius is Canis Major, and it's a dog chasing a rabbit. And there's definitely a whole story there behind Sirius. In the septenary cipher, it equals 33 Sirius. And so there's just a connection for people to research. In the Truman Show, one of the first things that he notices where everything is not. Sorry.
I know exactly what you're going to say in that film, how the light falls down that has Sirius on it. Yep.
Yeah. And also, I was thinking about how Keanu Reeves was in the news and was being memed. And I was like, there's something, I'm going to figure something out about Keanu Reeves. And because he was in E3 and doing the Cyberpunk video game and everybody's excited. Well, I was like, Dog Star, Sirius, there's something here. And then the first thing I saw is that Keanu Reeves is in a band called Dog Star. And of course, in the movie The Matrix, Follow the White Rabbit. And anyway, some of this stuff might not be connected, but Sirius is definitely very important to Freemasonry and Egyptian mystery religion, whatever. So I just thought I would throw that out there.
Yeah, I'm going to look more into that. Again, the astrology component's a huge piece of the puzzle that I know that's there that I haven't researched enough. But I just noticed that this thing I just pulled up about July 4th and Sirius, this article calls Sirius the guiding star of America. And right when I thought about that, I was like, yeah, Sirius in America. I know they have Gematria overlap. So yeah, and the two reduction ciphers, Sirius and America, are the exact same. But
I just figured it out. I just kind of started with this, so yeah, lots to be discovered, and yeah, great work. I really love your book, and I'm trying to share it with my friends, but it's slow going. It's not always the most. Still trying to figure out how to just get people excited about it, or just not the right way to present it, and just be casual.
Sure.
Brooding.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. I go through the same challenge, so I appreciate it.
Well, thanks a lot, and yeah, that's all I got, really.
All right. Thanks, man. Take care. You got a lot. Have a good night.
All right. Take care.
All right. I'm going to wrap it up. So somebody told me to be the man and stay up, but I got to get up early. You guys, I've been working 7 days a week for, I don't know, close to 100 straight days now. And I get up every morning super early and I decode all the sports games. And then I present the sports games until about noon each day. And it's exhausting, but it's the only way so far I'm building any resources for this movement. I keep asking you guys to support at $1 a month so we can build up some resources and have a Gematria News network. But every time I ask for that, no one signs up. So again, the only people who are financially supporting this are the people who are in it for the sports picks. And I wish it wasn't that way, but it is. And until that changes, I'm going to be on the grind 7 days a week. And honestly, that time it could be spent on more worthy causes. But I don't know. For a lot of you guys, apparently $1 is just too much to invest per month in this cause. So, and that's the other thing that's sad. You know, somebody made the point earlier about how these politicians, how they have, you know, millions of dollars of investment. What happened to my camera here? Oh, there it is. These politicians have millions of dollars, you know, invested in their campaigns, and I'm just thinking, you know, it's because the major corporations who run the show, they pay for these politicians to maintain the status quo. But we, the common people, you know, somebody tries to do a grassroots campaign, somebody comes and dedicates 5 years of their life and, you know, pays for the whole 5 years themselves to push out the knowledge to the world. And then when they run out of resources, they say, hey, can you support me at a rate of $1 a month? You know, 2 months ago, I said, hey, if you guys will support $1 a month, you can even get my 800-page book I wrote for $1. And nobody signed up for that. It's like, man, you guys don't value the work. You don't want the book. You can't invest $1. So this is why we're ruled over too, you know. We're ruled over because we can't collaborate or, you know, come together to support a worthy cause. And it's sad, you know. That's the thing about the people who rule over us. They know how to work together. You know? So you got $1 a month, sign up for the Patreon, and please don't write and ask how do you sign up for the Patreon, you guys. I mean, use some investigative skills. In the description of every single video, I have everything linked where you can support this cause, and it's right in front of your face. So, I mean, it's not hard to find. And I maybe I should be more nice about it if I'm trying to get you guys to support, but I mean, really, you guys, people ask every day, where can I get your book? I mean, it's linked as the top post at the description of every video. It's like, did you look at the top comment? Did you look at the description of the video? I mean, it's linked in 2 places right in front of your face. So that's the other thing too. If everybody just went out and got the book, which is the value of a lifetime, you know, there'd be enough resources to start this thing too. But $5 is too much for the book. You guys got to get Twinkies, right? Twinkies and Ding Dongs and Taco Bell and hamburgers. So this is why we're ruled over. All right. Don't mean to end it on a sour note, but it got to be real. Because it does get old and frustrating. You know, give up 6 years of the prime of your life to try to do something and people can't even come up with $1. Till next time.